Alrighty, thank you so much for staying with 95.1 Nigeria Info. Good afternoon, Abuja, and welcome to Hard Facts. Yes, it gets intense, but we find a way to make it light. It'll be a great conversation today, so tag with us from now to the end of the show. My name is Kimberly Nwachukwu.
And my name is Itodo. Great to be here with the Oracle today. So.
Yeah.
But do I get to make 3 wishes, though?
Number 1.
That everyone goes out to get their PVCs.
2.
That my account gets a chokehold.
With debit or credit alert?
No credit.
Be specific.
Credit alert.
Here is too early for tragedies. All right then. And number 3.
I'll think about the third one later.
All right then.
Yes.
So you could easily add genie to all my names. I grant 3 wishes. All right, it's Kim and Itodo on Hard Facts today from now to 7 p.m. We're going to have a fantastic time together on the show. I'm sure I had a great time with the Vocal Majesty on the Sunnyside Show, the Billionaire and What's Happening Abuja, and Femidi on the Morning Crossfire Show. Well, together, we'll ensure you have a greater time. You know, we're passionate like that. We're trustworthy, and we'll bring the very best of conversations here on Nigeria Info FM. And yes, just so you know, we're streaming live. We have a virtual studio, so you can go check us out on social media. Get to see Toto's face, get to hear me, and our guests. Don't look at me just so you can hear him. All right, our guest will join us via telephone. And he'll be helping us wade through some of the big stories today from now to 4:30. At the 5 o'clock hour, we would have Yetunde Bakare from Yaiga Africa join us to talk about the PVC collection. We'll get to know firsthand what is going on, the challenges INEC is going through, the challenge you're grappling with, and perhaps if it was a walk in the park for you, just strolled in and collected your PVC. Congratulations to you, one of the lucky few. You have your PVC?
Yes, I have mine. I had to go get it on Saturday, but I was talking to SWAT about it. It was difficult to get it. I had to wait for hours. And, the pace at which they worked was a bit confusing, seeing that a lot of people actually volunteered. We're offering to volunteer to help them out, but they were not taking that. And I'm sure they were maybe worried about being able to pay them at the end of the day. But still, I mean, if people volunteer their time to help out, I think you should take a jump on it. So everybody leaves there in record time. However, some locations, you're able to get yours in less than 5 minutes because it's on a rolling basis. They have like people who are, fast at what they're doing. They have proper arrangement. So, I mean, it differs across board. Yes.
Well, but the good thing you've got your PVC, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
You know, this story, just like I get my PVC, I went there.
I forgot about the suffering.
I know, right? It's like giving birth. 9 months after that, boom, baby appears and you're like, everybody's dancing. But it's all good. Well, keep at it. You heard it told a story. It wasn't easy. Niger, everything is a hustle. I feel like we're built with some kind of shock absorber to take some of the shock that comes with being Nigerian.
But it's interesting how, regardless of how much we suffer, we always find a way to crack up about everything. We laugh about ridiculous things.
It's for our mental health. If we don't have that, God help us. We'd all be walking dead. I don't want that. So it's a strategy for mental health to keep us sane and our heads above water. So keep at it. Keep laughing, joking about it. Well, not outrageously, because sometimes you need to get serious.
True.
All right?
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
All right, our guest is a corporate social consultant and into business, and is a social analyst for today. He will join us via telephone to look at some of the big stories driving conversation today. We're quite a number of them. Yesterday, the cash withdrawal limit came into effect, and I heard some people were grumbling, like, seriously? Like, people walk their way into the bank and over the counter just want to cash 500,000 and above. What kind of transaction do you want to do with so much cash?
I think the worry about that is the fact that the e-options wherein you can transfer to your client or whoever it is might not be reliable. You might transfer to them, doesn't go through, or you get a reversal. So most times people just want to withdraw the cash and go pay. But seeing that we have a bit of time to get ready for the cash limit, I think the options available right now are good enough, regardless of whatever business that you are transacting. It's not something that you should overthink. Just go with the flow and let's all get used to it. I feel like in good time, the options to transfer will become better with time, and we'll be able to do that as opposed to having cash always.
Yeah. All right, then. Let's just go to a very quick break, get our guests to join us, and we'll get started. Stay with 95.1 Nigeria Info. having a bit of a network challenge, but we'll keep at it. We'll try and get across to Onuwa Lucky Joseph, who will be helping us wade through the stories today. We'll find a way around it. So we started off talking about the story of the cash withdrawal limit, which came into effect yesterday. And so far, over 20 deposit money banks on Monday began the implementation of the Central Bank of Nigeria's new cash withdrawal limit policy across the country, with bank customers, some of them expressing anger over the new rule. The governor of the CBN, Godwin Emefiele, on the 21st of December 2022, bowed to pressure and revised the bank's earlier cash withdrawal limit. The CBN reviewed upwards the maximum weekly limit for each withdrawal across all channels by individuals and corporate organizations to 500,000 for individuals and 5 million naira respectively. For corporate organizations, and the CBN attributed the development to the feedback it got from stakeholders. Now, for transaction above the withdrawal limit, financial institutions are required to get details of the customers, upload the same on the CBN portal created for the purpose, and they give a bit more information there, which some people feel like that's a lot of work, but then it's a lot of money you want to get over the counter also. Itono was trying to explain the reason why perhaps some people have reservations around the limit, saying like, it's my money, I hustled for this money, I put it in the bank, you can't tell me how much to take in cash and stuff like that. But we have policies to regulate cash flow in.
I would even say now is a good time to withdraw large chunks of money, seeing that the old notes are still being given out there, and we still have the deadline coming through in a few weeks. So if you withdraw that much and you're unable to spend it in good time, you're left with useless money. So it's just best to keep things cool right now, wait until the 31st and see if we maybe get an extension, or the policy still stays at that time. Yeah.
Well, I think we have our guest now joining us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Kimberly.
All right. Good to know that you can hear us. It's crystal clear, I hope, from your end. At your end, you can hear us well and clear.
Sure, I hear you clearly.
All right then. So we're talking about the withdrawal limit that came into effect yesterday. Some people have their reservations about it, but over time, and since the policy was introduced and talked about, Nigerians have weighed the pros and the cons of it to saying what is the best for us, and trying to see if there's more advantage to disadvantage in all of this. I'm a little curious as to what you make of it now that we have this in effect, and we're counting down to the 31st of January when our redesigned Naira notes becomes the official and only legal tender.
Nice to join you again. My pleasure, as always. I would think that the policy is not a bad one. Unfortunately, we are a cash-driven economy. We've been like that, and I think it's a very difficult thing to start changing now. I hope you hear me well.
Crystal clear. Go ahead.
All right. So I think that people are finding it hard to think of themselves and navigating the economy without cash. It's a problem. We've grown used to showing influence with money, with cash. So it will. I think it's just a disruption, so to speak. After a while, I think people would get used to some of it. And now I'm not saying that this is coming as it should. I think there are things that need to be smoothened, especially for the rural dwellers and all of that. But I think that for those in the urban areas, they can effectively manage this. CBN moving the band limits to 500,000 naira for individuals and 5 million for corporates. I think that's a good move. And I think that it's the right thing to do. Let's begin to move like the rest of the world is moving.
All right, but just as it was difficult for us to adjust to a Nigerian rice from all the foreign rice, it will take some time for us to adjust to the fact that you can't do too much transaction with cash anyway. But then there are people who still believe Nigerians always find a way around it. Is it not 500,000? before you know, things will happen. Do you think somehow we're going to just muddle up the water and make it business as usual? Or you think this time around we have what it takes to make it work and actually, move closer and closer to a proper cashless economy?
No, I think that the contradictions in the system are going to have their way in the end, unfortunately. There are good policies all the time that don't last, they don't, because there are interests that come to play and that eventually defeat, the very idea of that policy. I think that there are individuals, there are organizations, there are politicians who don't want this policy at all. I mean, the very idea of some people planning to arrest the CBN governor, preposterous as it sounds, I mean, I think it's all part of the the fear factor. Let's people know that there are people stronger than those, even in the corridors of power. We are in the shadows, but we can make some things happen. And of course, they always have allies within the system. So I mean, talking to you now as an individual, I think it's a matter of time. I think that all of the things we've said, all of the good things we've said, we will find that they may apply to individuals who walk the straight and narrow, but not with everybody. There will be people who will beat it, and who will keep beating it, unfortunately.
Now, let's talk about giving timeline to such policies, because half the time we always tend to have a fire brigade approach to these policies. There's not enough time to plan and get ready. Now, what would you say is a good enough timeline whenever policies are to be effected? And if possible, would you say that in due time, when a study has been conducted as to how this is working out, that it could be reversed and, this limits will, just be increased on?
Speaking for myself and based on my experience with Nigeria, if I may put it that way, I would say I don't see how the deadline for the new notes becoming the only legal tender. I don't see how that would work. I don't see it. Yeah, CBN is insisting that is what's going to happen, but I doubt it. I think it should have been sequenced in a way that makes it easier for everybody to key in, to flow with it. As it is, like he said, it's a fire brigade approach. We didn't need it. We didn't need it. I believe it should have been started a little earlier so that we can work with the election time cycle and be able to effect all of that before this date. But coming at the time it did, and seeing the deadline, the endpoint we have, I doubt it will work. I mean, I have seen only the 1,000. I know that others have seen, other notes.
I haven't seen 200 or 500. I'm just still stuck with 1,000. So when the same canoe.
I've seen only, yes. So I don't see how. Nigeria is a big country, is a very complex place to navigate physically, transportation, electronically, however you want to navigate the country. It's a complex place. And I don't see that this timeline would be effective.
Would be effective. We need to go on a very quick break. We'll put you on hold and be back in a bit.
We shall be giving you the keys to your brand new 3-bedroom apartment.
With this great edifice I saw before me, wow.
Yes, it is real.
You too can be a winner of a 3-bedroom apartment like the Hange family on the Big Family Dream TV show. Head on to www.baffortstudios.com and register your family for free. Yes, you heard right. Free. And you are on your way to the open auditions. This unit just got better and bigger with the Big Family Dream. Sponsored by AG Mortgage Bank PLC and Wright Foods Limited. Manufacturers of Biggie Cola, Biggie Drinks, Wright Sausages, Fearless Energy Drinks, the #1 energy drink in Nigeria, and Sosa Fruits Drinks, supported by Life Mates Nigeria. Audition holds in Lagos on December 26th, Enugu, January 7th, ShopRite Enugu, Abuja, January 14th, Life Mates Furniture, Amadu Bello Way, Garki, Abuja. It's a day of family fun. Don't miss it. our country people, they talk with one voice. Them say, na Asiwaju Bola Tinubu them want as president of Nigeria. For this president election, Bola Tinubu, na the man where we all know. Now him God use turn Lagos to the best state for Nigeria. As Asiwaju do for Lagos, now so him ready to do am for the whole country. Vote Asiwaju Bola Tinubu for president of Nigeria. Kashim Shettima as vice president. Vote APC.
New shows, new hosts, new realities, true conversations, trustworthy ideas, shared passionately on your number one talk station of the nation. Nigeria Info 95.1 Abuja. Let's talk.
This is Hard Factor.
Yes, it is. And we're on the round table. We're looking at some of the big stories driving conversation in Nigeria today. We have Onuwa Lucky Joseph, Marketing Communication and CSR Consultant, joining us today to look at some of these stories. We started off talking about the cash withdrawal limit that's come into effect yesterday. And there's still tons of reactions and reservations about the withdrawal limit, the time frame, and all of it. And the CBN instruction to commercial banks is make sure that people only withdraw these monies through the ATMs, and they're encouraging banks to put more of the 200 naira notes. By the way, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen 200. I haven't seen 500. I saw just the 1,000 naira note on the very first day he came out, and I will be one of those who would run straight to the ATM after the show today to see if I can get a hold of 200, because they're saying
Fingers crossed on rubber health.
I know they will give me the very old one I deposited some months back.
Yeah.
But then they're saying 200. And Lucky, just before I move to the next story, let's get your thoughts on this. Is it possible, because we're talking about cash, we're used to doing a lot of transaction with cash and all of that, to take a while for us to adjust to doing electronically, but reducing the denomination to 200, to get into a future where we only have maybe 200, 100, 50 naira, 20 bucks in circulation with less than 1,000 naira. Do you see that happening?
I don't know. I mean, if the discipline is there to ensure that it stays, I think that it would. But I doubt it because of our nature, our history as a people, or I mean, the kind of government we have that put policies in place that they don't follow through with. Yeah. So, but then again, for me, I think that the ATM things. I mean, electronic platforms are not exactly reliable. They're not entirely reliable, you know. So there would be issues, and the frustrations are going to be so. I mean, people are going to make so much noise about it that CBN would feel that man has no other way than to, you know, change the very things he had designed, you know, into the system. And I don't think this is well thought through. You know, the timeline is.
Is there a perfect
narrow.
time for Nigerians? That I haven't seen one single policy introduced by government that Nigerians would say perfect timing, we're good to go.
I think that we always have those issues. It's not because of the people. It's more about how. I mean, like on Saturday, I was coming from. I went to Kefi, Nasarawa, and some guys had barricaded the road. I think they said they were going to fix some parts of it, and people are getting home at 3 a.m., 5 a.m. It's just senseless. You don't just bring something on the road and just block people and they can't move. There was no prior information. There's a need for a good head time for a lot of these things. I mean, we are a nation. We are not in a hurry to go anywhere. You know, these things are done for, you know, to last to well into the future. So why are we rushing them anyway? Why are we rushing them? It should be well thought through, and it should be people should be carried along properly. You know, sometimes the same people who put policies in place are the same ones who sabotage it. It is very clear that if you don't think things through, there's self-sabotage in the design, ab initio. Not to talk about the implementation itself. You would have that because you don't have the resources to ensure that people work with you. So I don't think it's about Nigeria. It's about how policies are designed and implemented.
All right. I'm just a little curious as how much time is good enough time, because we've been told since last year they will remove subsidy in June. I bet you in June will not still be ready.
Well, that would complain
8 months.
still.
Is that about the people? I don't think that's about the people. I don't think so.
It's about the
government has threatened and threatened. The government has threatened and been threatening about saying it will do this. At some point, in fact, it said it had done it.
Yeah.
You know, and then it came back to say no, the subsidy is still in place. All of the PIB and everything, it's not the people. I don't think we should blame the people. This is clearly a government matter.
All right.
All right, let's move on to the next story right now as to what the president is saying regarding fulfilling his promise on Boko Haram. Now, he said God has helped his regime to clear Boko Haram in the northeast. The president noted that the threat of terrorism was the most crucial security challenge inherited by his regime, but expressed delight that normalcy had returned to affected states in the northeast. Buhari therefore declared that he had fulfilled the commitment he made to Nigerians in his May 29, 2015 inaugural address to frontally and courageously tackle Boko Haram terrorists and stabilize the country. Now, he went on to state that while in office, there was no illicit enrichment and that he does not have, and I quote, 1 square inch outside Nigeria. So, I mean, this brings us to the question, what exactly is happening? I mean, over the weekend, we also saw what happened with the train attack.
Yeah.
And going 1 year back again, we see that we've had a similar experience. But what have we learned? Maybe nothing. How could we have prevented that from happening? And now they are demanding a ransom of 620 million naira. Have we moved past Boko Haram? Because right now what we hear every other day is the case of unknown gunmen, bandits attacking here and there, kidnapping people, and all whatnot. What exactly does the president mean by this? And would you agree with this statement?
It would take someone who is not in the system to agree with what the president is saying. I think he's totally insulated from what is happening. So maybe he needs some jolting. Some people need to really let him know what's happening in the country. There's no fulfillment of the promise. I mean, that as far as I can see. If anything, there's a lot more violence. There's a lot more fear. What was centered around the northeast is everywhere in the country. When the guys who attacked Kuje prison the other time and freed the Boko Haram terrorists, it was claimed by ISWAP. Islamic State in West Africa. That's a Boko Haram extension. So I don't understand these claims. They beggar belief. I don't know where they're coming from, because insecurity is at its highest point in our country. Since I've been around for 50-something years, so I think I have some idea as to how things have run for some time. It's insecurity as No. I mean,
No, Lucky, you're saying insecurity. Looking at the big picture here, the president.
No, that's why.
The president is looking at it from one lens. He's saying the promise I made was specific. Deal with Boko Haram in the northeastern part of the country. All these attendant issues that I see right now, I'm not aware. It's not like not aware of it, but it wasn't the plan. It wasn't a part of it. But then it's also a very curious one that he would want to just focus on that one arm of the promise made concerning security, because he made a 3-pronged campaign promise: security, economy, and corruption. And security, it was about Boko Haram, which was the major and perhaps the only threat we're dealing with on a large scale. In the northeastern part of the country, Boko Haram was the biggest threat. And we see how they tried so hard to neutralize their stronghold. We got ground zero, we got their flags and their paraphernalia, we pushed them back into the fringes and all of that, even though tons of kidnapping and abduction and all of that still happened after that. But he could actually go to any court and say it was Boko Haram in the northeast, this one happening in the northwest, the insecurity in the southeast, all the uprising I see all over the place was not there. So these are new
Well, I
introductions.
don't. That's why I referenced the ISIS attack
Yeah.
on the prison. What is Boko Haram? What is Islamic State really? Did he say that he was going to concentrate on security in only one part of the country? Is that the promise he made to Nigerians? Because if anything, the thing has ballooned. It's everywhere. And we're not talking about going to a court. This is a court of public opinion. This is not a court with people who went to law school.
I'll just play the
Court of
devil's
public
advocate
opinion.
here. If he were to stand by his word, he would say it was Boko Haram. But like you said correctly, it has ballooned. We're seeing all kinds of dimensions, like Medusa's lock. You deal with Boko Haram in the northeast, and we're seeing them spring up in different parts of town, which the big question is, did the government handle it well when they started manifesting? Your guess is as good as mine.
But not only has government not handled it well, the guys are growing in confidence and doing what they like everywhere. If you attack the Kaduna train station, service only just resumed, arising from that attack. And now the Edo station has been attacked, the service has been suspended, and, of course, resume at some later time again, maybe 1 year of no service. And people who depend on that corridor for movement north and south, or from the central part of Nigeria to the southern parts, they don't have to go back to the roads, where again kidnaps are happening all the time.
Yeah. Oh dear.
I don't claim success in the fight against Boko Haram if there's violence and people are fighting everywhere and kidnapped and robbery all over the place. I don't see how you can claim success. I don't see how you can even come about saying such a thing.
Well, I know quite a number of people who quite agree. A lot of critics have said you can't beat your chest on this one and say you've succeeded in fulfilling a promise because of just one aspect of it, when somehow, due to the handling of it, has led into this multi-dimensional insecurity and threat that we're dealing with in different parts of the country.
Well, he also made reference to the economy, saying that the economy has picked up, and that people are asking him about his achievements or the achievements of his promise to fight corruption. Now, would you agree that the economy has picked up, or are we living on a different side of the world wherein picking up has two different meanings, as well as making reference to, his fight against corruption? Did you get that, Francis?
I sure did.
I mean, I think we're not living in the same place. Clearly, we're not. I don't want to say too much, but I don't think we're in the same space.
All right, and just before moving away from this story, talking about the Edo incident, we're aware that about 6 of them have been rescued, children, minors, and a 65-year-old man, I guess. And keeping our fingers crossed and positive they won't stay too long in the hands of the abductors like the Abuja Kaduna train the victims did. But then here is something, going by reports in the Punch paper, talking about what they're demanding, 50 million per head, and looking at 650
20 million.
20 million, I beg
Yeah.
your pardon. And looking at the number of people they have, that's a whole lot. I mean, you just think of these people, they've got,
But
the
seeing that we have a
contract.
limit of withdrawal right now in terms of cash, and if the government were to decide or agree to pay them this ransom, would they be able to withdraw that amount of money over the counter?
Government, ransom,
Well,
in
I'm
the
talking
same
about
breath.
the family, the families of these people who might want to find a way to, we might go on to deny it, but have a time when people get abducted or kidnapped,
They pay.
they pay something. They pay something for it. So
They pay. I mean, there's no other way around it.
Yeah, but the thing is, I know yesterday we were talking about this, and I guess asked the question and said the people who abducted the Abuja Kaduna train and the tons of abductions we've had where they've put the price tag on the head of Nigerians, they pick up 100 million. They seem to have gotten away with it, and you think it might embolden the others to become a bit more, daredevil-like. Amen. It just becomes like a windfall if we can pull this one off, make some money, because people have not been punished per se. Do you fear?
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
I think that part of what CBN is saying with regards to the introduction of reduced amount for, over the counter and all that was because, we don't want incidences like this to happen. But I don't know. There were government officials in the Kaduna train who paid promptly. I mean, I don't know how else they would explain it. They paid and they were released. So even now, with all of the things happening, those are some of the things that would truncate this whole idea. 100,000 per week. Okay, so I'm going to keep them for 5 years if you can't bring the money. Because then again, if you say you've tackled insecurity, for instance, and we are paying 100 million, 100 billion, whatever it is to banks, and nobody can find them, nobody can trace them, nobody can do anything about it. It's just some things are not said. Some things are just better left unsaid because it's not the kind of thing you can't connect. Why would such huge amounts in cash, not electronically transferred, in cash, and we can't trace the individuals who get this and what they do with them?
Mind-boggling.
Totally so.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how these pans out. Rooting for the security operatives to get them before they succeed at their plans, and also really looking at how we can end this madness. It's becoming so much of, a way of life that is unacceptable. Some people seem to think, all right, it's just one of the stories you hear every day. We're getting used to it and all of that. I haven't. I never will get used to a story of this nature.
Yeah, it's difficult to get used to it, but when you hear things repeatedly, it just becomes, one of those soundtracks. It's just there, it's just playing somewhere.
Yeah.
And you don't take note until it comes very close. Someone close to you is abducted. You realize that this is really a problem. It's a problem. It's a big problem, and I don't know that enough measures or adequate measures are being put in place to stop it. Government there's a lot of movement. But are they effective is the question. Are we doing what we should be doing? Wouldn't we say that there's self-sabotage intrinsic in the design of all of this architecture is self-sabotage that's making sure. I mean, look at the time that some guys went into the NDE and abducted soldiers. I mean, these are things that you don't want to hear, but it happened. It happened. In the Nigerian Defense Academy. It happened. But again, you forget because other things have happened. So these are the things, that's how we live. One thing happens today, by tomorrow is trumped by something bigger and 100 such more cases. How would you remember what happened 2 years ago?
I think one of the troubling part of this is the fact that you were saying it's spread. For the life of me, I wouldn't have thought that they would pull up a stunt of that nature in Edo State. One would have thought, okay, perhaps this is limited to the northern part of the country, this massive abduction that we have seen in recent times. It's just been the northwest and perhaps the northeast. And to see this happen in the fashion that he did, Saturday till date, and we still can't find them in the southern parts of the country, it's even more worrisome. It tells you that indeed some people are awake at night scheming.
But also based on what happened in Kaduna over almost a year ago, right? I mean, we would have thought that we would have been ready, we would have put measures in place to ensure that this, attacks of such nature do not occur again in the country. But seeing that 31 people, how do we handle, this in January and an election year as well? How do we how do we learn lessons? How do we become better? How do we put these measures in place and not just give lip service, hoping that these things, God forbid, do not happen again?
There are all sorts of seminars going on. Every day we hear the president has given a marching order to security chiefs, do this and do that, and he ends at that. Nothing significant changes. So when you hear that kind of marching order, you would expect that some really drastic things are going to happen. Nothing really happens. It's become like another soundbite, not effective, which is just wrong. We're sending the wrong message to these guys. Again, what happened in Edo, such things have been happening, but not on this scale.
Yeah.
They've been kidnapping people in that corridor from the roads, not to the train station, but it will get brazen. People get confident as nothing happens to them. You do this, nothing happens. You do that, nothing happens. You just keep getting bigger. So they pull that off. Again, in typical guerrilla style, they move on to someplace else, because the security guys are going to concentrate their efforts around that corridor, which is wrong. I mean, this should be nationwide. It should be a nationwide measure deployed all at once to ensure that they are flushed out or neutralized as effectively as possible. The scale is huge. And to have that time to do what they did, it's really crazy.
Indeed, it is. Still on the matter of the security and the challenge we're dealing with around it, INEC itself is conscious of the realities at the moment and saying that, see, we have everything worked out from our end, we're ready, we're set for the 25th of February and the 11th of March. However, we could have a glitch with this insecurity if we don't manage it properly, even though they have vowed and they're committed to seeing that it doesn't happen and calling all the relevant partners and all to ensure that it does not disrupt our elections, that we do not have to postpone. We've had to postpone our election at some point. I think that was in 2015 for security reasons in the northeastern part of the country. And Nigerians did not find it funny. 2019, we also had to postpone the election. That was based on logistics and all of that. We're hoping it doesn't happen again, but these things are so glaring that you start to wonder if perhaps there might just be some areas that we should mentally prep ourselves to see some disruption or postponement because of security issues in this area.
Yeah, I think the issues are they're staring us in the face. It didn't start today, like we've said since we started talking. It didn't start today. They've been staring us in the face, and we've been doing a lot of talk and no real action. Sometimes it's people from the political parties. Sometimes it's just mindless criminality. Destroy INEC offices. Kill opponents and all of that. But again, because you can do this and move on to another target and move on to another target and move on to another target, not much is happening. I remember INEC itself trying to set up a special court, for offenses like this. But agencies like the EFCC said, no, don't do it. We already have measures in place, bodies in place that can tackle those issues. I don't think so. I don't think any serious person would think so. Now, I don't even know if you have a special body that would, but if INEC has said that, it tells you that they consider this a major problem. And I think you have been given some more thought before, just abandoning it. It's the violence is real and it's a clear and present danger. And if it's not dealt with, there's no way. Already a whole lot of people have been disenfranchised. PVCs, about 60,000 and above, which are stolen or destroyed.
Yeah.
And this is happening.
Well, even though INEC gave
assurances.
INEC gave assurances that we're going to reprint within 48 hours. That's going to cost us more money, though.
Yeah, well, these assurances come, but are they true? Is it really true that they can do it? It's one thing to make such promises because it's the thing to say, but is it something that's durable? That's the
yeah.
Now, on the flip side,
people who can't get their
PVCs.
Okay, I'm listening.
Go ahead. So, on the flip side, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has said that there is no costs for a lamb that elections would hold on the stated dates and stated days. We've seen, INEC offices get burned across, various locations in Nigeria. And of course, right now, INEC is stating that they might postpone these elections, going by what is happening in terms of insecurity in the country. If these elections
they're not saying they will postpone.
They might postpone.
It can happen if we don't check it.
Yes, they would. Yeah, exactly. Now, going by what is happening right now, what would the postponement do to the psyche of Nigerians in terms of the fact that we have already prepped? I mean, the monies that would be spent, all of the printed materials that would need to be reprinted again if this gets postponed. How exactly can we checkmate this? I mean, in terms of the federal government, the security agencies, to ensure that we do not come to that position where we have to postpone the elections?
Yeah, I believe that the major thing that needs to be done is for enough boots on the ground to checkmate the vandalism that's going on, to checkmate the rising spate of insecurity and terror that's going on. We need to have enough boots on the ground. People need to see that INEC offices are protected, INEC materials are protected. The people who want to vote are not terrorized to a point where even on that day, if nothing is happening, they don't want to come out because they're afraid. I mean, there's enough bloodletting going on, and then they don't want to come out. So the results you don't want might be the results you get because people who would rather vote for a particular candidate will say, man, I think I should just stay at home. My life may not be good, but I still have it. We don't want to get to that point. I think that if government is, again, we keep saying government. It has to be government. It's not about people. Don't pass on the responsibility to the people. That's why you are there in government. If you are there to guarantee security and to make life move smoothly for citizens, you should do that job.
I mean, it's the primary responsibility of any government, protection of life and property.
Yes.
So it's not asking for too much.
Not asking for much at all.
No.
So I think it's not about the people. It's not even about political parties. I mean, they have their role to play. But the government put its foot down, the guys are going to fall in line. If you know that there are consequences for some actions, you would know not to take those actions. But if nothing is happening all the time, they happen. Well, I think they are just free to do what they like doing.
Well, Tom Kennedy saying that in respect to the new Naira timeline, for me, there couldn't have been a better time than now, even if it means reversing the policy much later. But for the presidential election not to be bought by money bags, January 31st should remain. And I'm not against the idea of changing or redesigning our Naira notes. But what I don't understand is how low the new notes has dropped in quality. A primary school student can actually use the new 200 Naira note to color their drawing.
Come on.
Sam AB from Kuwa. I know that the CBN tried to explain the way the minting and printing. Yeah, security feature and to stain your whites in summary, but it's a feature that they want you to be aware of. Afterthoughts, I want to plead.
It is now.
Madam P. Kim and our new OAP Todo. Mr. Todo's voice sounds like Ogafemi and Mr. Bevan together. All right. Okay. Anonymous from Abuja. That's for him. He will check it out later. Did I hear you quote the president that the economy has picked up? Nothing can be further from the truth. The economy has picked up. How? Where? When? Someone needs to be in my elementary economic class, says Leo. And going by Mr. President's claim, we simply say that Boko Haram has just been changed. What we see now is the grandkids of Boko Haram. If you're able to deal with a father when the children are doing worse than the father, I don't think you have any reason to celebrate your victory. Most of the groups terrorizing us in the country have a link with Boko Haram. So Mr. President cannot be distressed about dealing decisively with Boko Haram. Langa Simon from Nyanya. Let's see if you can hear our callers before we let you go. Call us up on 0700 951 0000 or 08099 30137. All right. Hello?
Hello,
Yeah.
good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is
All right, go ahead.
Mr. Onuwa, can you hear Engineer Ola?
No, I don't hear him at all.
Oh dear. All right, Ola, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to first of all clarify something on this issue